Okay, so welcome back. Now in this example we have the same setup. We've got f of x equals 1 over 1 minus x, and we know that that's represented by this power series, and the interval of convergence is negative 1 to 1. And now we're given this one, and we want to use this information up here to rewrite that as a representation of a power series, or represent this function as a power series. So the first thing we do, and some students are going to be, the first thought is, oh, okay, well, let me expand this out and I get 1 over this, but that's not going to help us, okay? Excuse me. And even if you did, you would still, well, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that because you're going to end up going in a circle. But what you can do is partial fractions, right? So you can rewrite this using partial fractions. And so if you use the method of partial fractions, you're going to get this. You're going to get negative 1/2 over x plus 1 plus 1/2 over x minus, oops, not plus 1, x minus 1 and x minus 3. Okay? So that's what you're going to end up with. Now, what we can do now is now we can work with each of these individually and match it up with that function. Well, let's do that. Well, so what do I need to do? Well, in this case, I need the constant over here. I need 1 minus x. Well, if I factor out a negative 1 here, then what am I going to get? I'm going to get negative 1/2 minus what? 1 minus x. And then this negative cancels with that negative, and I get that. Okay, now, what happens over here? Well, I need to do the same thing over here. I need to pull out a negative 1. So I'm going to make this negative of what? 3 minus x. And then of course, this negative here can get, I could change this from an addition to a subtraction. So now I have that. Now, let's continue on. Okay? So now, this here still isn't like this one. So I'm going to have to pull out what? I have to make that a 1. Well, in order to make that a 1, I'd have to factor out a 3. Right? So if I factor out a 3, then this will become a 1, but then I have to divide this by 3. So basically, if I factor out a 3, I'm going to divide everything by 3. So if I factor out a 3, this will become 1, and this will have to be x divided by 3. Okay, and now what happens? Well, I can't have the 3 there, so I'm going to move the 3 to the numerator. So that's going to be, again, multiplying by the reciprocal of the 3. So this is going to become 1/6. Okay, so let me just write it out here in another step. So this is 1 minus x minus, this is going to be 1/6 over 1 minus x over 3. So I'm going to drop the parentheses. Okay, so now that's what I have. Okay, so far it's just been algebra manipulation. Okay, so now we're pretty much done. Because now this This here is the same as represented by this power series, right? Because this is your A, or A sub n. So this is going to be 1/2 times x to the n, so for n equals 0 to infinity. And this one is going to be 1/6, oops, is the series n equals 0 to infinity of 1/6. And then of course it's going to be x cubed, or x divided by 3 to the nth power. Okay, now, here's the thing. This is convergent for all values of x, absolute values of x that is less than 1. This series is convergent for all absolute values of x divided by 3 less than 1. Which means this is going to be convergent for all values of the absolute value of x less than 3. All right, now that means we have to look at the common interval of convergence, right? Since we're combining these two power series, the interval of convergence of the difference must be the smaller of these two intervals, right? So now if we combine these, so let's go back up here. Yeah, let's go back up here. So we've got that. So we got f of x equals 1 over x minus 1 times x minus 3 is equal to the sum of n equals 0 to infinity of, well now if we combine these, right? If we combine these based on their common interval of convergence, then we know that this is going to be 1/2 x to the n minus 1/6 x divided by 3, oops, dropped it in here, to the n. Okay? And then of course, we can simplify this and write this as a power series here. So again, always look to simplify this. So we've got x to the n, we've got x to the n here, but we also, if we distribute the n to the x and we distribute the n to the 3, what are we going to get? We're going to get 1/2 minus 1/6 times 3 to the n x to the n power. Okay, and now it's easier to see how this series converges. Okay, now we know it has to converge in the smaller of the two, right? So this interval of convergence is contained in this interval of convergence. So both of these are going to converge from -1 to 1. And so when we combine these, that's the result. This is going to be convergent from -1 to 1. And we can see that by looking at the form of it takes. Okay, so the interval of convergence for this thing is -1 to 1. And that is the resulting representation, series representation for the function f of x equals 1 over the quantity x minus 1 times x minus 3. And that's it. Have a great day.